So welcome.
Hi.
How you doing?
Great.
Excellent, excellent. So I know that we're just on time here, and let's just see. Hopefully we've got a few other people that are coming in, which is great. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
And we are recording as well, so it's all good.
Okay.
So if anyone that is coming in wants to make ask some questions, then please feel free just to put it in the chat box. I'm going to be handing over to Pia in a minute, but just to start us off. All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome to Connect to Coach, basically. My name is Elizabeth Foster, and I'm the founder of Connect to Coach. And Connect to Coach is all about making a difference in people's lives. And it doesn't matter whether that difference is in coaches' lives or if it's in the lives of people that actually go to coaches. And our aim is really to support the transformations so that everyone can live a happier life. And we do that through collaboration. And we collaborate with coaches to help them grow their business and raise their visibility. We collaborate with clients and with people that are interested in professional coaching to actually match them with the right client and to support them in living a better life. And we collaborate with outside experts so that they can actually bring in their particular wisdom and their knowledge and actually support the whole process. And I've actually only been in this country in the United States for a fairly short time, probably just over a year now, actually. And I've definitely been making a lot of headway and meeting a lot of really cool people. And one of the cool people that I met was Pia Silva. And I remember when I met her, I was really, I was impressed by Pia. There was something about her. There was a fire in her belly. There was a passion in how she spoke and what she was talking about. And I knew that we would be doing some kind of collaboration together at some point in the future. And I'm really glad that this day has arrived, and here we are. So I want to welcome you all and thank you for taking the time out and for joining us. Pia, I want to welcome you to Connect to Coach.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad I met you, and I'm super excited to be here.
I know it is. It's exciting. It's really exciting. I'm very happy about it. So, Pia, before we get really stuck in, and I know that you've got so much cool content that you want to share with us, and we were talking about it earlier, and I'm like, darn, there's a lot of really good stuff that I need to learn here, and I need to take on board. So, and I know that everyone is probably really excited to get stuck into this. But before we do, I'd just kind of like to ask you a few questions if I can.
Sure, of course.
So just tell us a little bit about what you do.
Sure. So I'm Pia Silva. My company is called Worst of All Design. And me and my partner work with 1 to 3 person service businesses. That includes coaches. We build what we call badass brands without the bullshit. So basically, we build entire brands, the entire brand strategy, business strategy through the positioning, the messaging, logo, website, materials, very comprehensive. And we do it all in a 1 to 3 day intensive. So that's what I mean by without the bullshit. None of this 6 months to a year to build a website. It's not necessary. And we love working with small businesses. We are a small business ourselves. So that's why I get really amped, because I love business and talking to people about their businesses.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And it's something, to actually find someone that works with such small companies, individuals, solopreneurs, entrepreneurs. I think that's it's a really great niche, and I'm a big believer in having a niche, and I love that niche, and I think that's why it's such a good match for us to have this collaboration as well.
Yeah.
So, but the main, our main target audience today, and that's not exclusive, of course, because of course anyone can come along and join in, but our main target audience today is coaches. And there's a lot of coaches out there. And what do you think the biggest challenge that coaches actually face today?
Well, I can only speak as somebody who is searching for coaches all the time, myself and for my clients. And I find it's very difficult to differentiate one from another. So as a potential client, I have a hard time assessing why one person is better than the other. And so, ergo, I would assume their biggest challenge is differentiating themselves from each other. And, it's not exclusive to coaches. Obviously, a lot of companies that we work with in any industry, especially one that is oversaturated or just there's tons of competition and they're all saying the same thing, that is the biggest challenge. But for coaches in particular, I find that they have a really hard time expressing why they're different and better. And I've been there, so I understand how difficult it is to get clients when you have that challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you suggest they actually overcome that challenge?
Well, obviously, I think it's a badass brand, and that means a lot of things to me. And today I'm going to talk about exactly that, and hopefully I'm going to give you guys some actionable tips, steps, questions, suggestions that will move you forward into differentiating yourselves.
Great. Well, I mean, I just know I know that you've got a lot in store for us, and I know that obviously webinars. People's time is important, and webinars have a finite time. So I'm going to stop talking. I actually want to hand it all over to you.
All right.
The branding expert, and take it away.
Okay, great. Let me just get this up. Can you see my presentation?
I certainly can. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, great. So let's get straight down to business. No bullshit. Most branding presentations start by asking, what is a brand? So I just wanted to quickly address that question because there's a lot of definitions for this word. And because there's not a specific answer, I think that's where people get tripped up. So often you're probably thinking at the very least, a brand is your logo, your business cards, and your website, etc. That's definitely one piece of a brand. Other people, next level definition of a brand is the emotional connection that people have with your company. I'm sure everybody on this call has heard that. It's about the emotion. It's how you make people feel that they remember. That's also a part of a brand. I like to also put in how people experience your business and how people think about your company when they think about your company. No matter whether you've put energy into making your brand or not, you have a brand. So whatever people think of your company, that is your brand. Now, it may be that you didn't put any energy into it and there's nothing different about it. So then your brand is a bland, forgettable brand, but it still exists. Today, these are great things to know about, but I find that when branding companies are explaining what branding is, and that's what most presentations are, it doesn't really help implement anything. And I'm all about action. So instead of talking more about, explaining exactly what brand loyalty is, brand value, all of that, I find it's much more useful to use questions and examples and case studies to define what branding is. But not just branding, effective, profitable, what I like to call badass branding. So what is the difference between a brand and a badass brand? Well, when a brand is badass, it can do two important things. One, it is able to attract ideal clients. So instead of constantly looking for clients and constantly trying to sell your services, when you are a badass brand, you are positioned in the market in a way that you actually attract clients that are ideal to you. And the second thing is that it commands a premium price. So a brand any brand out there, you price your brand, you price what your services are based on what you can get. When you have a badass brand, you are able to price higher than the competition and still win the business. So today I want to share with you questions that will help you position yourself to achieve these two things. So most of the time when people start talking about their brand, branding experts will ask you, what do you stand for? So this might be a familiar question. It's a good question, and it's something that you need to know. But I find that this question actually garners some pretty wimpy answers. When you think of what do I stand for, we start to get really magnanimous, right? I stand for integrity. I stand for honesty. I stand for community. Those are all great. Those are all nice answers. I also stand for those things, but you know what? Those answers aren't different. Let me give you an example. I searched yesterday for just coaches, and I brought up a ton of sites like this. Live a life you love. Life of your own design. Find fulfillment. Are you living a fulfilled life? They're all saying the same thing. And this makes sense because coaches stand for building a life you love, of course, and we're all very passionate about that. But when it's all the same, you just fade into a sea of sameness, and it's very hard to stand out. So the first question that we like to ask instead is, what do you stand against? What pisses you off about this industry? What do you do in the coaching industry what do others do in the coaching industry that you think you can do better? This question, what are you against, allows you to think about what the problem in your industry is that you're trying to solve. And a really good answer will be something that your competitors are actually for, because that will truly differentiate you from them. And that's the goal. It's a great question because it gets to an authentic answer that is not just kind of the generic fluff that everybody else is saying. So let me give you a couple of examples so you don't think that I'm just telling you that you should, call yourselves worst of all design or something. So this is a great example. This is a wealth management company, and I like wealth management for you guys particularly because it's a similar industry in that they're all saying the same thing, and there are a ton of wealth managers out there. So this client came to us unable to get business. They had actually been in business for a year and they couldn't get clients. Moderna Capital, it was a boutique wealth management firm started by two ex-Merrill Lynch advisors. They left Merrill Lynch because they wanted to help young professionals with financial advice. And as you can see, this is the before. It's actually really nicely designed. The copy is trying to speak to young people, break from the mold, think independent. But they just couldn't get clients. We did the first step in our process, which we always do, called a brand shrink, which is a deep dive into what they're all about. And I asked them this. I said, what pisses you off about your industry? And they lit up and got really heated. And they started to tell me that they had been fed up with how Merrill Lynch only works with people who have a minimum of $500,000 in liquid assets. They only work with wealthy people. They only work with people who already have wealth. And this couple, they think that it's unfair that younger people in, my generation, 20 and 30 somethings who don't necessarily have this kind of access to liquid assets, but are working really hard and do have the potential to be wealthy, they don't have access to this high level of financial services and consulting. So basically, they were against the whole big corporate Merrill Lynch way. And yet they had still built a brand that looked a lot like Merrill Lynch. I mean, the copy was a little more hip, but it didn't really reflect the passion that they expressed when they spoke about their disagreement of how Merrill Lynch does things. They were against how Merrill Lynch only spoke to old, rich clients and didn't speak to young people. But by truly understanding what they were against, we could build them a brand that sounds and looks like it stands for something that's actually different from their competitors. And most importantly, they were able to embrace their voice. So Honestly, if we hadn't been able to identify that they were very much against this old stodgy way, they would not have had the guts to go this far in the other direction. A new name, a new look, and most importantly, a new voice got them speaking to their exact demographic in a way that they want to be spoken to. For example, 20 and 30 somethings, they don't want long, boring articles. They want Cliff Notes. So we branded their newsletter as Financial Cliff Notes. We also productize their services. I don't know if you know the way that wealth managers work, but basically they wine and dine you until you hand over all your money for investments, and then they do this financial plan included. Well, I said, our generation, first of all, we don't have a ton in liquid assets, but also we're looking for advice and we're not ready to marry you. We want to date you first. So we productize that financial plan. Now, they were extremely scared to do this because they said a lot people don't charge for this. I said, yeah, but this is a different demographic. And now that you are very clear on who you're for, we need to speak to them accordingly. So we productize this stash plan. We productize a few things, but this stash plan is kind of the cornerstone. And the result is that they have been selling $20,000 worth of stash plans every single month. And 75% of those clients are being onboarded as wealth management clients. So this is something that they were scared to do, but because they were able to embrace that they were very anti-Merrill Lynch, they were able to start moving in a direction that felt scary and different, but ultimately differentiated them so much that they are attracting ideal clients. So here's another example. This is something we did recently. A woman named Laura Bonarigo, you might recognize her from Days of Our Lives. She apparently starred on Days of Our Lives for a long time, and now she is moving into her next career as a divorce coach with an outdated website. So this might feel familiar. We asked her what she was against, and she said she just didn't want to look, obviously, like other coaches out there, but she also hated how touchy-feely divorce coaches were in particular. This is a really traumatic event for people, and they're angry and they're sad, and she's a very real talker. I mean, she doesn't beat around the bush. So that was what her brand was going to be about. So we embraced this authentic voice, and all the copy on the website, you can actually go check it out to really read it, but it is, she speaks very frankly. Her pages talk about her parents' divorce and her 2 divorces, and it's all in this very real and raw talk, because that's how she's conveying the fact that she is not these other coaches, these other touchy-feely coaches. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with touchy-feely, it's just that that wasn't her, and she was very against it. So by embracing this, she's able to sound different and attract people who are really interested and lit up by that kind of copy. And, some people are going to be really turned off by this because it's not the usual thing, but that's okay. Laura is setting herself apart from other coaches and is going to attract exactly the right people for her, people that are going to appreciate the way that she works with them. So just quickly, of course, we take our own medicine. So I just wanted to share a ton of things that we're against. And I would say that one of the biggest things on this list is that we're against these big agencies with unnecessary fluff. And it was so valuable for us to really identify that. I mean, that may seem obvious now, but when we started our business, we were basically copying agencies and we were trying to be a smaller version of them. And when we figured out that we were against that big agency fluff, we completely changed our model to this intensive work, and that differentiated us. So I just wanted to share that with you because figuring out what you're against can help you either embrace voice, embrace the way that you sell your services, embrace the way that you run your company when you're really clear on what you aren't. So I want to just take a minute and tell you that, take a second to write down what you might be against. What's the first thing that comes to mind? I'll give you a couple seconds. Everything is valuable right here, so don't censor yourself. I find that the first things that come to mind are usually the most useful and the most powerful. Okay, moving right along. So I'm going to preface this next question by saying that it's actually more of a business question, and I'll tell you why. If you come to some of my more in-depth seminars, you'll see I focus a lot on the business side of things, because you can't make a badass brand without a badass business. You can make something look badass, but it will be inauthentic as a brand if it's not backed up by a badass business. So, we all know how much people respond to authenticity. And badass brands are about making the whole thing, the business and the brand, badass and authentic. Authenticity is when you create a brand promise, you promise that you are one way, and then you back it up with your delivery. So the brand and the business together must operate as one cohesive badassness. So this next question is kind of a three-part question. And the first part is, what's your favorite way to work? Who are your favorite clients? What's an ideal situation for them to be in when they come to you? This is a really simple question, but I find that most people don't ask themselves this. This is so important. What is the way that you love to work best? Loving your business is the only way for you to have a truly authentic and exciting business that other people are going to get excited about. So put another way, why did you go into coaching in the first place? What really gets you jazzed? You need to know this, because a badass business is one whose owner is totally in love with it. And that requires you to love what you are doing. And by the way, this is the key to not selling. When you love what you're doing and you are putting all your energy into being the best at it, you understand the inherent value of it. And your conversations with potential clients are no longer about trying to sell your services. They are about trying to figure out if your services are perfect for this client, if this client is perfect for your services. People are drawn to that kind of authenticity because they're no longer feeling sold to. I mean, sales is such a dirty word, right? The reason sales is a dirty word is when people sell without actually trying to understand what your needs are. So this is a two-part question, right? Part two is, what is the most profitable way that you work with people? Badass brands are highly profitable. Now, this is a simple question, but it can be tricky because sometimes your highest priced packages might be your least profitable packages. The gross money that's coming in, if you're not paying attention to how much time you're spending on it, might actually be costing you money. Now, I know a lot of people on the call are probably selling your time for coaching, so maybe you're always charging the same hourly price. But there are ways to get around that, and I'm always looking for ways to stop charging for your time. For example, are there ways to package your services so that it's no longer just dollars traded for time? Can you package your services so that there's an additional value you can get paid for that's not just tied to your hours? You might be doing something like this now, like a group program. But can you figure out if they're more or less profitable than your one-on-one coaching clients? Do you even know? This is a really great question to answer, to figure out, to start looking at your numbers, because once you know what the most profitable thing is, you can start to increase your profits. Now, I want to share a trick that you can implement right now that will set you up for higher profits forever moving forward. It depends on part 3 of this question. But first, let's recap. Part 1 is, what's your favorite way to work? Who are your favorite clients? What's the good situation? Part 2 is, what's the most profitable way you work? Excuse me. What's the most profitable way you work? How, group coaching, one-on-one coaching, something else? And are they the same thing? If you answered yes to this, then just sell that. Why are you selling anything else? Only sell that and you will see higher profits almost instantaneously. Here's how I know that. If you only sell one thing, you will be known for it, and you will always attract ideal customers looking for you. And since it's also the most profitable thing you sell, when you only put your energy into selling this one favorite, most profitable thing, soon your plate will be filled with customers buying that profitable favorite thing, and your profits will go up. Less profitable work will be replaced with more profitable work. Right now, you're selling other less profitable things, and they're taking up time that you could spend either selling your favorite profitable thing or fulfilling on favorite profitable clients. I want to give you an example of this to bring it to real life. So this is somebody that we worked with. Her name is Sonia Chabra. She's a physical therapist, and she, like many coaches, was selling hours for dollars when we met her. Now, she's not just a licensed physical therapist, but she is certified and educated in many other related fields. At least that's what she thought was different about her, that she had this holistic approach. On the left side of the screen of her previous website, you can see some quotes from her site, and you can see that they're kind of generic. So during the brand shrink, I asked her what her favorite thing to sell is, and she said that recently she'd been flown to India to work intensively with a bedridden client who had just injured herself and could barely walk. After working with the client intensively for 2 weeks, she completely healed the woman back to her active, running previous self, which is amazing. That is a magical story. So then I asked her, okay, well, what's the most profitable thing you sell? And she said, well, that intensive session, because it commands a premium price. So then I asked her, well, why don't you only sell that instead of working with patients hourly like everybody else? She'd clearly never even considered that that was a possibility. So here's a snapshot of some of Sonia's new brand materials. And, you know, less is more sometimes, because this is actually a 2-page website, and that's all she needs. We stripped away the lists of certifications and explanations and all this copy that was just generic fluff that everybody says that nobody was reading. And we replaced it with this one idea: heal faster. This is all people want. We branded her method the intensive work. We branded it the Sonia Chabra method. And now she exclusively markets herself with this method. And since each client is paying her thousands of dollars a week, she just doesn't need nearly as many clients to make much more money. Also, she gets way more referrals from the doctors that she used to get referrals for, because referring doctors know exactly who to send to her. She's not just one of many physical therapists that they know. She stands out with her own kind of service. Now, of course, other physical therapists could also work intensely with patients, but why would a doctor who knows Sonia ever send people to anybody else? She's the expert in this. It's been magically transforming for her. So again, I'm going to give you a minute to think about what your most profitable and your favorite thing to sell is, and is it the same thing? Okay, now, as you think about this, you might realize, what if it's not the same thing? That's okay. Maybe you love working one-on-one, but group programs are much more profitable. I'm sure a lot of you are in that situation, or vice versa. All this means is that you have to work on increasing the value and therefore the profit margin and the price of your favorite thing. So if you love working one-on-one, but group programs are more profitable, then you might need to spend some more time investing in your thought leadership, positioning yourself more as an expert so that you can charge more for the one-on-one work. Maybe you join forces with someone else who has a group program and you act as the one-on-one mentor. The point is, this is your business, and you can actually set it up however makes you happiest. And you can make anything valuable if you put energy and focus into making it more valuable. Have you ever heard the phrase, "You've made your bed, now lie in it"? We all have to lie in the beds that we make. So why not make something beautiful? You can make anything valuable if you put time and energy into making it valuable. Something I see a lot of people doing is blindly following what others are doing in their space without really asking themselves if A, do I like it? And B, is it actually making me more money than the other thing I was doing? I see a lot of people diversifying their offerings because they can't make enough in one area, so they start selling something else in addition. But this is like the opposite of what you should do, because it spreads your energy thin across lots of different offerings. Instead of building up credibility and expertise in a niche area, you're just constantly juggling tons of balls in the air and nothing is getting enough energy into it. Okay, so we've made it to my last question. Now, this is the toughest question you have to answer if you want a badass brand, one that stands apart from the competition, attracts ideal clients, and commands a premium price. Are you ready? Are you ready to say no? Now, this seems like a pretty simple question right now, but it can be extremely difficult to answer when you come face to face with it in the real world. In fact, most people can't stick to it. So, are you ready to say no to clients because they aren't ideal clients, because they aren't specifically asking for the thing that you do best? You don't want to say no because theoretically they'll pay you and you could fulfill on what they're asking for. Are you ready to say, no, that's my price and it's worth it, sorry, when people ask you for a discount or try to haggle? Can you say no to a client offering you real money in the real world? Those that can't say no usually think they're leaving money on the table. But here's the thing, not all dollars are equal, and you are building a business, a brand, and a reputation. Saying no to what I call a weak dollar today frees up your time to work with the clients you want, doing work you want to do, and getting paid more for it. Instead, I implore you to view the word no as the most powerful word you can say for 3 reasons. First, no strengthens your message. Others will be clear on what you're an expert at and will become referrals if you say no to them. When somebody comes to you and asks you for something that's outside of your specialty in your wheelhouse, this gives you an opportunity to explain that you don't do that because you specialize in this. Those people now become excellent referral sources. Second, nobody forgets the person that said no to them. Saying no is memorable because it has integrity. When people feel like they're being sold to no matter what the situation is, they don't trust them. Again, that's why we feel that sales is such a dirty word. But when you're ready to say no to any client who isn't exactly the right client for you, you're building trust in that person, and that trust permeates everything that you do. And third, saying no frees up time. Bad, cheap clients breed more bad, cheap clients. You don't need them. Free that time up and spend that time looking for the best clients. Bad clients also tend to suck profits dry because they require more time from you, either because they're bad clients and ask for more time, or because they're just not squarely in your wheelhouse, so it requires more of your time and energy to fulfill on your promise to them. I say no more often than I say yes because I don't like to work with people that aren't squarely in my specialty and expertise. I only want to work with clients that I know I can knock it out of the park for. And I also know that my process is so tight and streamlined that those are my most profitable clients. I can do my best work for them, and I can make the most money working for them. Sure, we could brand lots of different kinds of companies, but it would require more time and thought on my part, and I don't need to. I like working with my specific niche, and I like being an expert at it. It's such a relief for me too, because I don't like to sell either. And when I get on a phone with someone who's interested in services, I'm never trying to sell them. I'm always just trying to figure out, is this my perfect client? What do they really need? And if they're not for me, I want to get to know as quickly as possible and suggest somewhere else that they can go. It actually builds trust with your community when you do this. So over time, when you're being more honest with yourself about the kind of work that you do best and the kind of clients you want to work for, you are going to build a network of referrals that will grow and get stronger over time and become more plentiful. So those are the three, kind of five, badass questions that you need to answer if you want to start moving in the right direction. Now, for all of you who felt like you already know this and you had great answers to these questions, I salute you. That is awesome. And I would love to connect with you because I'm always looking for badass coaches that I can refer out to. For everyone else, I know that these are seemingly simple questions, but if you actually honestly answer them, you should be able to turn your business into something that is much more profitable. And that also requires you to actually commit to doing it. These are three questions that we use with all of our clients and allow us to do the kind of work we do. And you know, I want to tell you a little bit about our company and how this actually completely changed our company around. So we started as a graphic design company. We were a dime a dozen. There's so many graphic design companies out there. And, you know, we were slowly raising our prices. As I said earlier, we were copying kind of the agency model that we saw. And as our price went above the $100 an hour mark, we found that it was infinitely harder to get clients. We were modeling after these agencies, and 3 years into business, we ended up in $40,000 debt because of it. And that was kind of the breaking point for me. I mean, I couldn't go any farther. We had to completely take a really hard look at ourselves and figure out, you know, what are we doing wrong? Because I know the work is good and we're pouring everything we've got into it. So what's the problem? And these are the three most important questions that I had to answer that completely changed our business around. It allowed us to catapult ourselves away from the crowd. It didn't take us very long to stop charging hourly and to start charging based on value. Within a year after being in $40,000 of debt, we actually made almost $500,000 because we answered these three questions and we acted on them full force. But what's way more exciting than that for me is that now we're providing so much more value than the hourly work we used to be doing, because we got to the core of what we do really well and the value we can actually offer people. So, you know, all of these questions are about helping you figure out how you can sell based on value and not based on time. There are so many more questions that can also help you with this, but if you just answer these three questions and act on them, you will be ahead of most of your competitors. And I know this because I have watched so many clients shift their businesses by at least answering one of these questions. They see radical shifts in how they attract clients almost overnight. And, you know, I know what it's like to face off with competitors, because for those 3 years when we were the same as everybody else, it was incredibly frustrating, especially because I always felt like we were the best choice. And I'm sure you've been in that position. And it just really doesn't have to be that way. If you commit to building a noticeable, memorable, shareable, profitable business, you can have it. You just have to commit to the effort of making the bed that you want to sleep in. So, you know, luckily you don't have to do it alone. There are lots of companies that will help you with this. I mean, helping other businesses identify what's so badass about them is my favorite thing to do. Remember Sonia Chabra? She had such a seemingly simple answer, and it usually is. I mean, we discovered it in the brand shrink, but the point was that, you know, when I pointed out that she could solely do this, she was so surprised. It just, you know, sometimes it takes a third party to identify this stuff. Usually the answer is staring us right in the face. In fact, our word badass that was a result of me talking with my business coach. I didn't just come up with that. I was talking to him and he kept pressing me. Well, what makes you different? Why you? And I just, everything I said was so generic. And finally he just forced me to say, and I was like, I don't know, because they want to be a badass. And he was like, say that. It's like, oh my God, ding, ding, ding. Okay, so I have so much more I would love to share with you guys. And I'm gonna give you a few ways that you can get more information from me. But first, what's the point of this webinar? So usually you do a free webinar and people give free webinars so they can share some valuable information with you so that you can view them, me as an expert, and maybe down the line at some point you think of us when you have branding needs, right? So I'm just gonna take a minute to explain how we work just a little bit more, because it is pretty different from other branding agencies. And then I'm gonna give you guys 3 free gifts for listening. Okay, first, how we work. So we have this pretty unique 2-step process. First step is the brand shrink. This is something that everybody does no matter what they wanna do with us. Everybody has to do the brand shrink. It's an 1.5-hour interview with me and my partner. It's a deep dive into your business, where you're trying to go, where you've been. It allows us to get a full picture of what's going on so that we can give recommendations. After the brand shrink, we deliver a brand shrink brief that is a summary of what you're trying to do and our list of recommendations of how the best way to do that, what your badass sauce and path to success is. We charge $650 for this. It's an 1.5 hours. And after that, on the second page of the brief, we have a list of the deliverables that we think that the client needs, and we tell them whether you can execute it in a 1, 2, or 3-day brand up. This is what I was talking about with the 1 to 3 day intensives. So we build entire brands from the positioning, the strategy, the messaging, the logo, the website, the copy, the identity materials, the social media, and we do it all in 1 to 3 days. All of the examples I showed you today are all 1 or 2 day brand ups. We literally launch a fully designed, built, and written website at 6 p.m. at the end of the intensive. No bullshit, wasn't kidding around. And that's it. So my first free gift to you guys is, remember that brand shrink, our $650 brand shrink? I'm actually gonna give out 5 free ones. I will walk you through a mini brand shrink, give advice on how to strengthen your business. My partner, I work with my husband. My husband's always saying, you're brand shrinking people. Everyone you're talking to, you're brand shrinking them. I love hearing about people's businesses and trying to find that special sauce. It's usually pretty simple. It's more about actually committing to it. So I can only offer 5 of them because it's a lot of time, but I would love to offer a few of you this if you'd like. I believe that Elizabeth is going to put this in the chat box, this link, or you can just type it in. So if you want to sign up for that, go ahead. The next thing I want to offer you is, so I am doing an all-day event on May 5th. It's called All In. Bet on a badass brand that sells itself. It's in Soho, and it's all day. It's from 9 to 5. Doors open at 8. It's going to be 60 entrepreneurs, so great networking. And I'm just going to go into so much more depth about this stuff. I'm going to share all kinds of questions and secret tips. And I made this formula for finding exactly where your badass niche is that I'm really excited to share, because I haven't really shared it in a public way yet. But I dissected how we do our process when we built an online course for this. And once I dissected it, I was like, wow, I have to share this publicly. So that's what this day is all about. Tickets are $247. The early bird pricing until next Thursday is $97. But anybody on this call, I would love to offer you guys a free ticket. And so quickly, this is how it works. It's a refundable ticket. So basically, you put a deposit down, you pay for the ticket, and then when you show up and you sign in, they will hand you a check for $97. And the reason is I just need to know how many people are going to be there. I plan to have 60 people in the room, and that's for everybody's benefit. I want it to be a full room with great networking, and people don't show up when things are free. So if you're interested and you're ready to commit, I mean, that is the theme of the day. So commit, put it all in. sign up, buy a ticket. I think Elizabeth will put this link in the chat box as well. And then you can come for free if you show up. And I would love to meet some of you in person. That would be really cool. And come up to me and tell me that you were on this webinar. That would be awesome. And the last thing I want to offer you, it's just this awesome PDF that me and Steve made. You know, Elizabeth, when she asked me to come on the call, she said, you know, we're really about action. And obviously I'm about action. I'm, what is it? Shoot, aim, fire, fire, aim, shoot. That's me. So we made this PDF that has 5 concrete things you can do right now to badassify your brand. It's really actually specifically for your website. But if you go to that link, you can just sign up for it and get the PDF and do it. You know, do it now. So yeah, that is my presentation, and I would love to open it up to questions. And I haven't been looking at the chat box because I've been concentrating on talking to you, but I'm back.
Hi, Pia.
Hi.
Okay, that was, oh my God, that was wonderful. I learned so much from you. I am just completely wowed by, I mean, thank you for coming, taking the time and hanging out with us, but really also thank you for sharing this great information. It's just fabulous.
Thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. We haven't had a lot of questions, but there's been some sharing that's been going on, you know, about how the coaches like to empower themselves, what they like to do, that kind of thing. So I think that, you know, and it's just so in alignment with who you are and what you do, and actually who I am and what I do. So I'm so glad that we're doing this. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask Pia? We've got a little bit more time. Does anyone have any questions that they want to ask Pia live? I'm happy to put you on, and you can like just ask right ahead. So there's a question. Okay, so the question from Beth was, how long did it take your new branding to take off?
Great question. So what happened was we decided almost overnight to go from the big agency stuff. We used to do like $30,000 to $50,000 6-month projects for big companies, and when we turned it around, what I did was I called up a bunch of my outstanding proposals that I had out there, and you know how it is when you send something and you don't hear back. I called and they all had the same reaction, like, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't call you back yet, but you know, and I was like, oh, no, it's okay. I'm not doing that anymore, and my proposal doesn't stand. But I have this other thing that's less expensive, and I'll do in 2 days. And they all signed up. So it was a nice transition because it happened pretty much overnight.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. An overnight brand success. There you go. Okay, so Mark's question, in your opinion, how critical is a BadAss website versus BadAss lead pages for events or webinars, etc.?
Good question. I mean, it's, I would say it's more about the BadAss brand and message. So it's not so much like a BadAss website could be a 1-page website that's got a really clear, great message that differentiates you. I'm all about small websites, you know, I'm huge blogs. You know, if you want to write a lot of content, write it on a blog and create a lot of content that positions you as an expert. But websites don't have to be big at all. So I would say, you know, you want a website, but it's the message that's most important. And that will translate onto your website. That should easily translate onto your website, lead page, and event and webinar pages in the same way, because it should be consistent. Hope that answers it, Mark. Thank you.
So yeah, hopefully that answered your question. And the other answer to your question, Mark, is the webinar jam. This is my package. It's not Pia's. Pia and I have had interesting conversations about the pros and cons of 101 different webinars and which is the right one to use. And you know what? The jury's out because we haven't yet found the right one. Barbara asked, how do you feel you handle branding difficult topics that people don't spend dollars on? So Barbara's actually a new coach that we're working with. She specializes in working with people that have gone through grief. And I'm guessing for her, you know, she's got that difficulty. It's like, you know, grief, it's about sad, you know, are they spending money on, you know, moving over it? You know, how do you position yourself as a grief coach is, I'm guessing what you're saying.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And, you know, those are some of the, I mean, grief isn't fun, but it's like a fun challenge because I would say people don't want to hire a grief coach. They want to feel better. So I would say the first thing that I would start to think about is, what can I do that will help people feel better in these times, these trying times? And how can I create something that people would be interested in attending or participating in a smaller scale maybe, that then can turn into a relationship? I think that calling yourself a grief coach is already setting up this uncomfortable relationship that I mean, I'm just kind of reading into the question. Like, that's what I would imagine. Like, oh, like people don't really pay for grief coaches. You're right. But
literally is a grief coach. So I just kind of paraphrased her as
gotcha. Yeah. No. But you know what I mean? Like, if you can create, like, I would think more about sales funnel. And I mean, certainly being clear about your target and how people go through the funnel of hiring you would be huge for that, because people aren't usually used to paying for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would ditto with that. And Jim's asking the same question. Jim is a family relationship coach.
Hi, Jim.
And he and that's exactly what, you know, he works on, making the relationships in a family work together. So as opposed to, I mean, I remember when I first met Jim, I talked about, I used the word dysfunctional relationships, and he's like, you can't say that. And I'm like, okay. So obviously I completely got it wrong. But you know, Jim was kind of, you know, saying to me, we need to just change it around and we need to position it in a different way. And so I am not the branding expert. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to hand that one over to you, Pia.
Yeah. Again, I think it has to do with, well, first of all, questions that I would ask. Like, there's no, I can't one answer, but questions I would ask are, what kind of families, what kind of relationships? Are we talking about kids? Are we talking about couples? You know, and then think about possibly, again, ways to interact with them. Because I think that I don't think it takes very long if you're engaging and able to build trust with someone in a conversation in a relatively short amount of time. I don't think it takes very long to move them there. The brand is about getting that first conversation. So the brand and the business strategy is all about creating that face-to-face or that phone call or whatever it is, so that you can then sell what it actually is. And I talk about that in a different talk, where it's like, you know, there's what you do and then there's your brand, and they're actually like related, but not actually the same thing at all, because your brand, what you do is so complicated and has so many parts to it, you can't explain all of that. So your brand is the thing that you own, so that people will have that first interaction with you.
Yeah, and thanks. And that's so relevant. You know, you being different from your brand. I mean, that's exactly the same with Connect to Coach. I mean, I kind of named it because it connects coaches with clients, but actually there's a lot more than that. As you know, everyone is experiencing here today. This is really about, it's about really supporting people to live a more fulfilled life, whatever that happens to look like for them. And I know, I was a coach for 10 years. I know there are so many coaches that just, you know, they're great coaches, but they're just not very good at getting their messages out there. And that was really one of the key things in why I started Connect to Coach. And working with you, Pia, it's so lovely because you really get that, you really understand that, yeah, two things aren't necessarily the same. So do we have any more questions, or should we call it a wrap? Any more questions, anyone? I know we've still got people that are with us, that are live. I don't think so. I think that's about it.
Okay.
I'm typing furiously. So I really suggest that everybody take advantage. I've seen Pia live. She's awesome, like really awesome. So I would really recommend that you take advantage. The $97 refundable, it's a no-brainer. You pay the money, you get it back. It's not rocket science. And so that in itself, I'd highly recommend May 5th for that. Hopefully I will see you all there.
Yeah, and I'll just post these. They don't make the links.
Yeah, for some reason they're not. The links are not actually. You're going to have to cut and paste it and put it into your browser, or I don't quite know how we're going to do that.
Yeah, I would just cut and paste this whole thing that I just sent out. I just posted, and then you can pick whatever you want to, whichever you wanted to sign up for, or sign up for all three.
Yep.
I look forward to chatting with some of you.
Absolutely.
Oh, wonderful. I look forward to talking to you too, Mark.
Oh, perfect. There we go. All right, everyone. So thank you for taking the time out. I really appreciated your being here. Pia, thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much. It was so awesome. I really appreciate it, Elizabeth.
Yeah, it's been fun. And we should definitely do it again.
Great.
All right. Okay, we're signing off, everyone.
Thanks. Thank you. Hope to see some of you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.